All right, it should be recording. That's what it looks like. Okay, are we good there? 6 2/3. All right. Homework wise, these are your even answers. Take a look at those for a second. And Carter, I did not get yours. Okay. Okay. Is that thing recording or not? All right. Oh, let's see here. All right, what? Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask her on Tuesday, like, what was like an accident? No, I didn't. We don't have what? Am I gonna I'm gonna go. What? I don't know that.
What did I do?
You didn't do anything.
Hold on. It was like on the bottom of the slide.
Oh, it's a different letter. It's like autocorrect IRL.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got X squared, dog. See that? All right, let's see here. Hold on. Where's my thing at? Is that working? All right, let me, for a second here, and just pay attention. And you'll see I set up, I think this is 55, or which one? That's 60, right? And I showed you yesterday, we did the equation, and I showed you as a way to organize it. And let me just kind of go through this. Let me see if I can get this going. Is that working over? Okay. if you are a person that kind of needs things organized and it helps you out, then this is a nice way to go about solving these mixture problems. And this is just the example from yesterday in class. All right, so you already have it down. What you can do is you talk about the first solution, the second one, and then the final mixture. And then is always amount and then percent. Well, like for the M&Ms, it was amount and then cost. Okay, so the columns can adjust a little bit. So the liters of solution for this one, they don't know how many for the 20%, so we put down X here. What we know there's 30 liters of the 80%. Well, that gives me a total of what? We don't know, but you have to add them. How do you represent it? You represent it as X plus 30. What is our percent alcohol? Percent alcohol, we know it's a 20% solution, so it's 0.2. This one's 0.8. And what's the final mixture have to be? It has to be 0.4. And what's the total liters then? Well, how do I find total liters? You take the percent times what? The amount. So it's 0.2 times X, 0.8 times 30. And then this is 0.4 times X plus 30. Okay? Now this is our equation right there. Well, we're going to make it our equation. You take the two columns, add them together, and they have to equal the third column. So the total liters of alcohol in the two solutions has to equal the final mixture. So it's 0.2X plus 0.8 times 30 equals 0.4 times X plus 30, okay? So that's got to be our case. Now, we solved it yesterday, and what did we get, 60? All right, I'll jump back to a couple of the other ones, but let's just look at 60 for now, okay, since we're on the same concept. All right, this is number 60 over here. And if you take a look, we're talking about, I don't even know what chicory is, but I guess coffee has it. And one of them has 15%. One of them has 35%. And then the final mixture is going to be 18%. Now, this is slightly different than the problem we did in class because they tell you the final amount. The final amount is how much? It is 500 pounds. That has to be the right here. So you have to let one of these be X. The other one has to be 500 minus X, which we did at the beginning of class with the M&Ms and raisins. This is the percent. And then you take the percent times the amount, 0.15X. 0.35 times 500 minus X. And then 0.18 times 500. All right, so for 60, we get 0.15X plus 0.35 times 500 minus X equals 0.18 times 500. All right, if you don't have that, get that down. Okay. If you solved it now, what did I say the answers were 75 and 425. So if you got that, you're fine. You got that, you're fine. Okay, so I got 0.15X plus 0.35 times 500, 175. Oh man. Oh yeah, 175. Minus 0.35X equals 0.18 times 500, which I believe is 90. Okay, so that's 90. 0.15 minus 0.35 is negative 0.2X. 90 minus 175, is that negative 85? Divided by negative 0.2. Is that one 425? 425. So 425 kilograms for that one. Okay? And then the other one's going to be 500 minus that, which would be 75. So that's where we get 425 of the 15%, 75 of the 35%. Get to that one. All right, 60. I'm not gonna go through 63 because it's pretty similar. If you still get stuck, come see me. Let's definitely take a look at 50. Okay, and then I'll set up 51 and 55. 50 is the riding your bike. Where we're riding it to? Friend's house. We don't know how far away. All right, that's what we're trying to find. So you ride your bike to your friend's house, and at a rate of 16 kilometers per hour, I think. Coming back, it is 80 kilometers per hour. All right, I put a T1 and a T2. Why do they have to be different? Or do they have to be different? Cole?
A different amount of times.
Yeah, they're going to have to be different amount of times because the distance is the same, but the rate has changed. What do the 2 times add up to? Said it took a total of how long? 3 hours. So T1 plus T2 has to equal 3 hours. Well, isolate T1. What does T1 have to equal if I get it by itself? Divide by what? 16. So D divided by 16. T2 is going to be D divided by 80. Now, in order to do this, the distance has to be the same for both of them. That's the way I can get away with this. Is the distance going to be the same? Yeah, you're going to the friend's house one way, you're going right back. Distance has to be the same. So one of them has to be the same. So D over 16 plus D over 80 has to equal 3. Now, some people get to this and you still get a little bit stuck because it's been a while since you solved the rational equation. But remember, we want to wipe out the fraction. And you want to multiply by a number both 16 and 80 will go into. And you cross your fingers and you hope 16 will go into 80. Well, does it? Yep. So I can multiply by 80. So I'll multiply by 80, 80, 80, and that gives me 5D, because 16 goes into 80 5 times, plus D equals 240. Okay. 5D plus D equals 240. Now that gives me 6D equals 240. And divide by 6, you get D equals 40 kilometers. Okay, that was a good one. That was a hard one. Okay, that one was not obvious for that one. So you should get 40 kilometers. If you got that one, really good. All right, what was next? 51 and 55? All right. So for 51, what's happening on 51? So we're draining the pool maybe? One drain takes 4 hours, the other takes 6 hours. All right, this is a work rate problem. T over A plus T over B equals 1. So T over 4 plus T over 6 equals 1. You're going to solve that. Most of what I looked at were fine. And I'm just going to leave that. You get 2.4 hours. Okay, if you got that, you're good. 55, however, the total time for the letter sorting machines is 8 hours. One is twice as fast as the other, right? All right, how do we set that one up? Zach, do you know how to set that one up? Or how did you set it up?
I set it up as I said T over 6.
Are you looking at, whoa. You're looking at 51 or 55?
Oh, I was looking at 51.
All right, look at 55.
55, I put T over X plus T over 2X.
Okay. Just keep going.
And then I said equals 8.
All right. Total time is 8. That is your T. We always want this to equal 1.
Okay.
So let 8 go here for total time. Okay. Now you said over X?
Yeah.
And over 2X, I'll agree with that. Okay, I'll agree with that. 8 over X plus 8 over 2X equals 1. Total time. Now some people set it up, and this is okay. Some people set up 1 over X plus 1 over 2X equals 1/8. And I know what you're doing because that's the fraction of an hour, and that'll work. If you did it that way, you're fine. Okay? But if not, go ahead and set it up this way. All right, what can I multiply by? I don't think it's as obvious. Okay, I don't think it's as obvious. What can I multiply by, Madison, to clear the fractions out?
It said 2x.
That is right.
Okay.
Okay, because we need the 2 and we need the x. So you multiply everything by 2x, 2x, and 2x. The x's cancel, and you're left with 8 times 2, which is 16. The 2x's cancel, and you're just left with the 8. And then 2x times 1 is 2x. X equals 12. Okay. Anything else that's just really hanging you up that I haven't touched upon that I could touch? Elizabeth?
Why wouldn't it work if you just multiply by x rather than 2x?
Well, let's see. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but it might not be as nice because it wouldn't get rid of the one fraction. So 8/x plus 8/2x equals 1. If I multiply by x, oh, okay. That works in this case because that gives me 8 plus, those cancel, and 8 divided by 2 works. So yep, it works. Okay, that's fine. If this was like a 3x and it left you 8/3, it just, in some cases, it would make it messy. Okay, in this case, it's not too bad. No, you're good there. All right, Sydney.
Can you do it where you just like multiply the one fraction so that they have common denominators?
Yep, that's fine. You can add them together. That's good. All right, let's move into 1-3. We're going to solve quadratics. All right, we're going to concentrate on factoring and completing the square. And I'm going to erase this up here. Okay, to solve quadratic, you got to square it in there. Don't write this down, write that down. But you've got x squared plus x, I'm just making this up, minus 16 equals 0. You're asked to solve it. You're usually saying when I'm solving an equation, I want to get the variable by itself. Well, when you throw in the x squared, you're running into all kind of issues. So we got to come up with some different formats to solve it. The first way we try is factoring. Okay? And then there's two others that come into play, and it's completing the square and quadratic root formula. Factoring is by far the easiest when we can use it. Now that's why, and that's how the zero product property gets to be used within factoring. We create a product if two things are being multiplied. If one of them equals 0, we're good. So let's take a look at an example here. All right, solve w squared minus w minus 6 equals 0. Go ahead and write that down, and go ahead and factor it if you know what it's going to factor into. Alyssa, what you got?
I got w minus 3 and then w plus 2.
Good. W minus 3, w plus 2 equals 0. All right, now this is no different than a times b equals 0. We got two things being multiplied. Now it's just not a single variable. That's okay. But if you have two things that multiply to equal 0, one of them has to be 0. So in our case, that means either this first parentheses equals 0 or this parentheses equals 0. So we just have to figure out what's going to make each parentheses 0. Well, the first one, we set each equal to 0. Now, a lot of you just kind of do this in your head, which is fine. But this is what's happening. Add 3, and we get 3. Subtract 2, we get negative 2. And you have to use those braces. You can't use parentheses because it'll look like an ordered pair. And it tells everybody that I have 2 answers. Negative 2 is one answer, 3 is one answer. They both work when we substitute them in. Okay, usually for a linear equation, you get one answer. Quadratic, we can get 2 for that. So we want to factor it, set it equal to 0. Now we want to go over, I guess, a little bit of the special cases here. They're not all going to be just trinomials where they factor easy. Take a look at this here. Whoa, sorry. Solve 2m squared equals 5m. In order for the zero product property to work, if you look at it closely, it has to equal what? 0. Does this equal 0? No. And one thing you got to watch is a lot of people look at this, oh, I can divide by m. What happens when you do that is you end up eliminating the answers. You got to be careful of that. That's why it's a little better to factor. Subtract 5m. And so we're going to get 2m squared minus 5m equals 0. 2m squared minus 5m equals 0. All right, now this isn't exactly the same as last one. You don't have a constant, but you do have a GCF of m. Take that out. This is a product. You're taking m times 2m minus 5. So this is m equals 0. And then this is 2m minus 5 equals 0. So m equals 0 is going to be one of your answers. And now just solve the other one. Add 5, divide by 2. You get 2m equals 5. Divide by 2, m equals 5 halves. Final answer, 0, 5 halves. Okay. All right, third one there. 4y squared minus 11y equals 3. 4y squared minus 11y equals 3. Again, we have to make it equal what? 0. Subtract 3. 4y squared minus 11y minus 3 equals 0. This does not have a GCF. Don't get tempted just to look at the first two terms and pull out a y. Can't do that because the y doesn't have, or the negative 3 doesn't have a y. This is a good old-fashioned factor problem. You either do it by grouping or guess and check. Just kind of for time's sake, I will lead you the right way. The first two terms are 4y and y. Could be 2 and 2, but those don't work out. So think about what's going to be after that. So again, 4y and a y. Ty Walker, let me know what you get for the factoring part. Or if you get stuck, you can tap out.
Okay, so I got y minus 3 and then 4y plus 1.
Y minus 3 and 4y plus 1. All right, I agree with that. So it gives me 4y plus 1 equals 0. Y minus 3 equals 0. Subtract 1. Divide by 4. Negative 1/4. Add 3 on the other side. Y equals 3. So those are my two cases. You got to understand, if you substitute those in, they're going to work in the original equation. They'll also work in the second one. So real quick, if I plug in 3, 3 squared is 9. 4 times 9 is 36. What's 11 times 3? 33, and 36 minus 33 is 3. It's got to work. Same thing if you plug in negative 1/4. That's not as nice, but it will work. So y equals negative 1/4 and 3. Okay? Yep.
Like the negative 1/4 and 3, could you put them in the different order for the answer? Does it matter?
No, it's not that important. It's just technically it's gonna be listed from smallest to greatest. Like if you would flip the order, I'm not gonna mark it wrong. Okay. Now that comes up into, like when some people have some online homework problems, not that we do at this point, but like if they would plug them in this wrong order, it would mark it as wrong. Okay, because it just glitch in the issue, they just can't, it's programmed to read it in that order. But I understand. All right, last one we're gonna do by factoring, and then we take a look at completing the square. All right, 18r cubed plus 16r equals 34r squared. Obviously, we'll want to set it equal to 0. When you do that, make sure you put it in descending order. Go r cubed first, then the r squared, and then the r last. So when I subtract 34r squared, that gives me 18r cubed minus 34r squared plus 16r equals 0. All right, it has a GCF. Take that out. All right, Landon, what do you think our GCF is?
2R.
Good, 2R. Take that out. 2R. And then that gives me 9R squared minus 17R plus 8 equals 0. All right, again, just to make this a little bit quicker, it's going to be 9R and R. I know my first instinct would be to do 3 and 3, but that doesn't work. All right, so try 9R and R, think what your signs are going to be, and they both have to be negative. And it's either 2 and a 4 or a 1 and an 8. Krista, you got it?
Yeah. 9r minus 8 and then r minus 1.
Good. 9R minus 8, R minus 1. Now here's what's important. You have to keep that GCF with there because actually how many things did I multiply together? Technically up there. I got 3 things. I got a 2R, I got a 9R minus 8, and R minus 1. Any of those can equal 0. It really doesn't matter how many things multiply together. I know the product property says A times B, but it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. So 2R equals 0, 9R minus 8 equals 0, R minus 1 equals 0. And when I simplify, I get R equals 0. I get add 8, divide by 9, I get 8/9, and I get 1. So my answers are 0, 8/9, and 1. 0, 8/9, and 1. All right, GCF, pull it out. Don't forget to include it in here. Now, if their GCF does not include a variable, that will not give you an extra answer. If it was just a 2, you would not have that 0. It's only when it has a variable with it. All right, before I get into completing the square, I kind of want to go backwards. Just pay attention to this. Don't write this down. If I had a problem look like this, you can solve this really quick and easy. And I don't know if you remember, we went over it before in the past, but I don't know if you remember. How could you solve something squared equals a constant really quick? Take the what? If you want to get rid of the squared, we take the square root. So if I got this, I can make this, take the square root of both sides, but when I do that, this is a special case where you gotta do plus or minus the whatever's on the other side. Well, what's the square root of x minus 4 squared? It is x minus 4. And then I can solve for x by adding the 4 to the other side. This would be my answer. Okay, that would be my answer. If it looks like this, you can just take the square root of both sides. Okay, that makes it easy. Well, did any of these look like that? No, none of them have to this point. Now that's going to lead us to this case here. Solve by completing the square. Well, if you take a look at this one, try to factor it. Go ahead and write it down. I'm going to do on the left, I'm going to do the work, and on the right, I'm going to list the steps. Okay, can you factor it? Can you give me two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to negative 6? No, it doesn't factor. You cannot solve that by factoring. So we got to do one of the other two things. We got to complete the square or quadratic root formula. Well, we're going to complete the square right now. We need to make it look like something squared equals, I'm making up equals a number. We got to make it look like that. And here's how we do that, okay? First step. Now, we're going to kind of go backwards. We're going to isolate the constant term on one side of the equation. Make whatever is by itself, you're going to take it to the other side. When you're factoring, you want to set it equal to 0. When we're completing the square, we actually want that constant on the other side. So you're going to get x squared minus 6x equals negative 4. Now, this second step actually doesn't come into play for this problem because it says make the coefficient of x squared a 1. Well, it already is a 1, so that actually makes life easy. By dividing both sides of the equation by the original coefficient, basically you got to divide everything. So if this was a 2 in front of here, you have to divide everything by 2. But we don't have to worry about that. Now, as you can see there, steps 1 and 2 are interchangeable. All right, this third step, key step here. I need to add a number that makes this factor, okay, that makes this factor into something squared. Now, there's a way to figure that number out, but does anybody know, just by looking at it, what that number would be? Cole?
9.
Okay, it's going to be 9, and let me just kind of explain over here. That's going to factor into x minus 3 times x minus 3, which is going to be x minus 3 squared. If I put a 9 on the left-hand side, that's an equation that's going to make it unbalanced. You got to balance it by putting a 9 on the other side. All right, well, how do I figure out that number? I don't want you to just sit there randomly guessing. Here is the step to figure out that number. We're always going to add the square of 1/2 the coefficient of x. What's the coefficient of x here? Make sure that makes sense. Jane, what's my coefficient of x?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. We're going to take half of that. Divide it in half, which is negative 3. And then you're going to take the square of that, which is 9. So that's how this number gets into both of those slots. All right, I'll pause here and let you get that down. Because that's the ultra important step. That is what we call completing the square. Now, sometimes you'll be able to look at it and figure it out. Great. Awesome. But sometimes you'll need to go through those steps here. All right, and now the step 4, it says factor and simplify. Well, we're going to do what I did over here. Okay, I'm just going to rewrite this for a second. I got x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals. Now I simplify that to 5. That factors into x minus 3 squared equals 5. Now take your square root and get x by itself. So the square root of x minus 3 squared equals plus or minus square root of 5. X minus 3 equals plus or minus radical 5. Add 3 to the other side. many answers does that indicate? Does that represent, I guess? Yeah. How many? Two. There's two answers. One answer, and you can leave it like this. That's fine. But it's 3 plus square root of, not 3, 5. And then it is 3 minus square root of 5. Okay, those are your two answers. And that means if you plug them in, you plug that answer into there and give you that's going to solve it. Okay, that's going to solve it. I know you're like, that doesn't make sense, but it does. That's how it works. All right, I didn't get to this second one. We'll save that. I know you're in anticipation. But here, take off 46. Okay. The others you should be fine on. The first 4 do factor. So you want to use that method, and then the last 2 are completing the square. And let me turn off my